Welcome, everyone. It's 12 o'clock, and this is a monthly Stanford Pediatric GI seminar, research seminar series.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's a long
Yeah.
thing, but we're going to test you on it afterwards.
Okay.
And so this is a hybrid meeting, so hopefully I can't see how many are on right now, but for those who are coming on, the Zoom link, welcome. For those who are here, please, there are sandwiches, grab some sandwiches. And if you have the chance to do this, grab your laptop. Because we're going to make this hands-on. And so please, there's seats here. And I think there's an echo. Does somebody, okay, I think we fixed the echo. Great. So, welcome. My name is Sunil Lusing. I serve as the chief of the division, and it's a pleasure to introduce our speaker today. And just before I do that, next slide. We've got a great lineup for 2026 with someone from drug discovery and the Cardiovascular Institute, and Dr. Raja does a sort of novel drug excipients. So for those who are interested in innovation, we'll do a practice session for the fall conferences, and then there are a couple of outstanding talks thereafter. Do you have 2027 scheduled?
We do, but we don't have it on a slide right now. It's
Okay.
still 14 weeks.
Sure. So good news is 2027 is almost completely booked, and we've got a great lineup of individuals who hopefully really speak to an interest in scholarship to us as a division. And if we can now go back one slide. And today is no exception. In fact, today I might even submit might be a little bit more than the usual, because we're going to really have the privilege of hearing from one of our veteran librarians at the Stanford Lane Library about AI tools that are now recently available through the library. And we're also going to do some hands-on exercises with one tool in particular called Consensus. So this is our first time doing a hands-on, and we're going to really try to make it happen. We found that in the past, when we had done a AI boot camp in April, the hands-on was really the most interesting and valuable to participants. Let me tell you about Chris. Chris Dave has served as a research instructional librarian at Stanford Medicine since 1996, before you were born. Chris brings,
Kind of embarrassing. Just get rid of me.
you bring more than 3 decades of experience in medical librarianship. Chris has previously worked at UC San Diego before joining Stanford. He holds a bachelor's of arts in history from UC Santa Cruz. And you also have a degree in surfing.
Certainly, no.
And a Master of Library Sciences from UCLA with a concentration in information science. That's quite a lot of education. Throughout his career, Chris has contributed extensively to medical research, scholarship, work spanning systematic and scoping reviews, pediatric health, medical education, clinical research. Chris is the acting library liaison for pediatrics, surgery, emergency medicine, and GME included. So for those who would like to take advantage of that. He's also been an active member of both the Medical Library Association, Northern California, Nevada Medical Library Group for many years. We've had Chris here, I think, at least twice. This, I think, is your third time.
I think so. That sounds right.
And Chris, along with just excellent librarians at the Lane Library, led by Blarka Huddleton.
Yes.
Is just always, they're always available to help answer questions, to help frame papers. I was surprised to know that Chris has pleasantly surprised, like Chris has something like nearly 100 papers in his CV because he co-authored them with Stanford faculty. And the librarians are they're very happy to help accelerating and increasing the impact of your work. And today, I think, will be a demonstration of that. Without further ado, let's welcome Chris Day.
Thank you for that terrific introduction. I really appreciate that. The fact that I have these publications as a co-author, it's really interesting to think back in time to, I think it's been over 20 years. The first time that a librarian at Lane Medical Library was actually a co-author on a scientific paper, it was pretty remarkable. And now it's fairly routine because evidence syntheses like scoping reviews and systematic reviews, you really have to have a librarian because they're the ones who are going to select these different arcane databases that you've probably never heard of before. They're going to have this in management and collaboration, with screening, using our screening for covenants. So it's pretty routine now, I would say, to list librarians as co-authors. There are exceptions. I don't want to go off on a tangent too far, but if the journal's requirements for co-authorship are super stringent, then we'll just say, an acknowledgement is fine. But by all means, take advantage of us. So if you put in a request for help with a search, it could be a case report, it could be a scoping review, systematic review, meta-analysis, doesn't matter. We will happily help you with that. It's what we live for, to do this stuff. So make us happy and take advantage of that. The easiest way to do it is just come here. Thank you for your help. I appreciate that. So anyhow, if you need help, just to reiterate, just go to services, click on Lit Search Service, and there's an intake form, fill that out, and we'll get a hold of you within a working day. Set up a Zoom call, get a little more background on your research topic, and then we'll design the initial PubMed search strategy, run it by you with the results. You check to make sure it's inclusive, and then we adapt it to other databases. And there's other things we do, but I don't want to talk about that too much. But again, it's a free service. Take advantage of it. So a couple of, I guess I would call them announcements, just to make sure that everybody's aware of a couple of things. First off, we have recently, in the past year and a half, made some huge agreements with major publishers like BMJ, Elsevier, Wolters Kluwer to cover your article processing fees if you're submitting a manuscript to a journal that's open access. You don't have to pay. This is huge because some of these APCs are ginormous, right? They're $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. So the fact that we have Elsevier too is really big because I think a lot of journals in your area are Elsevier journals. The way that you find out is my journal covered by an agreement with Lane Library, and the link is in your handout, and you'll get it digitally too if you haven't gotten it already, is something called Chronos Hub. So this is something you'll find on our webpage if you do a search of Chronos Hub or just follow the link in your handout. Basically, you type in the name of the journal that you're submitting to, like Archives of Disease in Childhood, and if we have an agreement, you're going to see that right here. Severivec does have an agreement with this journal, so follow the instructions to make sure that you get credited for the APC charge and that you're not charged. So it's something that is really pretty new for us to make these agreements, and we're trying to get word out to everybody because it has significant cost savings for our departments and divisions.
And do you have to, the faculty can, as the author, in order to be able to take advantage of this, you have to be the corresponding author?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I think in those cases, you do have to be the corresponding. A Stanford person has to be the corresponding author. Yeah. Okay, so that's Chronos Hub. Speaking of manuscripts and speaking of publishing, just in case you weren't aware of it, we also now have something called Authenticate. So Authenticate is a plagiarism checker that used to be available only to publishers, but recently they opened it up to academics, so we have it now. And I strongly recommend that before you submit a manuscript to a journal, you run it through Authenticate. So it's going to look for matches with other journal articles, with digital text, even with things like UpToDate. And I'm mentioning UpToDate specifically because we had a PEDS resident submit a manuscript, I think it was to Neo Reviews, and her co-authors had used a block of text from UpToDate that they didn't cite. And Neo Reviews, I'm just going to assume it's Neo Reviews, scanned it, using Authenticate, found that there was a block of text that was uncited, and they banned every author on that paper for life from that journal. It's pretty draconian. I don't know that all journals are that fierce, but at any rate, you have access to Authenticate, so you should really take advantage of it. You can also do it with the abstract of a paper you're presenting at a meeting, so long as it's 500 words or longer. Just pop it in, and it will do an analysis to see if it matches other papers, textbooks, etc. It's also going to do an AI detection algorithm run. So it's going to try to see if blocks of your text seem to be written by AI. Now, it's not 100% accurate. No tool is, but it does a pretty good job of saying, you know, this looks suspiciously like you ran it through some AI platform. So definitely you want to take advantage of that. So that's Authenticate.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, going back to the publishing fees, do you guys take requests for creating?
And I'm sorry, I should
agreement?
apologize in advance. My hearing is
Oh.
really bad.
Going back to the previous thing that you had talked about for the fees for publishing. Do you guys take requests for which journals you guys could create?
Yes, we
agreements with?
would. Yeah.
So for us, it's mainly Wiley.
Yeah, widely we don't. You're right. It's amazing you mentioned that's the one big one we don't have.
So all of our our JPGN is part of Wiley, or like
Okay.
pediatric transplantation is part of Wiley.
Can you send me an email just as a reminder, and I'll run it by our digital materials? People say, you know, there's a groundswell of interest from peds for the Wiley journals for this reason. And because we are working on it, but this will really help. So thank you. I
Can
wanna
I
make
also
sure-
ask a question?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, hi, yeah, Eric.
Okay.
Sibley. I'm curious about the reasons for not allowing text that's been written by AI. And so can you elaborate on where that stands with journals? If there is reference, if it's referenced and acknowledged, is that something that would make it acceptable? Or what's the latest in terms of how journals view the use of AI in writing a manuscript?
I think it varies depending on the publisher. And I would check the instructions to authors to see what their policy is about use of AI and how it's reported. Are you using it for writing? If so, how much? Are you using it for data analysis? Are you using it for, you know, whatever purpose? You would always need to report that in your method section of your paper. But I think what's acceptable and what's not, I think might be kind of a judgment call. I don't know that I have a really strong rubric for it. But I'm happy to do a bit of a deep dive after the session to see if there's any sort of standard or best practice now about coping with that issue.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So I want to make sure that every single person in this room has LibKey installed on their browser. So just kind of show of hands, how many have? Okay, awesome. So for folks who don't, this is the way now that you should be accessing articles and journals that we subscribe to. It's super easy to install. You just follow the link in your handout, click on installation in Chrome if you're using Chrome. I'm going to remove it because it's so easy to install. It won't take that much time. And then I'm going to add to my browser as an extension. And then you put in your affiliation, Stanford Medicine. And notice there's also an option for Stanford University. If you're doing research in an area that's not clinical medicine, maybe it's economics or business or law or some other topic, you can easily switch to Stanford University to take advantage of the holdings at all of the other Stanford libraries, law, business, you name it. So just wanted to mention that. Why not just go with Stanford Medicine or Stanford University? Because it doesn't have
Okay,
their
go ahead.
catalog. It doesn't have all of our journals. So for clinical medicine, you want to stick with Stanford Medicine. And what this is going to look like is the next time you go to PubMed, and I know some of you know this already, but for those of you who don't, and you do a search, LibKey is going to populate all of the results with a link directly to the article. So you'll go sailing through any paywalls right to the article that you need. If the article is in a journal that we don't subscribe to, there's going to be an option to request it from our document delivery team. And they usually get it within a couple of hours, at worst, a working day or two. So that's LibKey. It works wherever you're going on the web, whatever you're searching, Google Scholar. You come across a citation to an article that you want and you click on it, you're going to see a little teeny tiny green flame in the lower left corner of the web page, and that's going to take you to the article. Okay, so we're always trying to get word out about LibKey. It just makes getting articles so much more efficient. You don't have to go to Lane Library. It's pretty obvious why you would want to use it. So finally, almost finally, I want to make sure that everybody has committed to a citation management program. The dominant program at Stanford Medicine is definitely Zotero. Why? Because it's free, it's easy to use, it's great at grabbing content off the web, it's a great collaboration tool. It plugs into Google Docs, Word. You can share your collection of citations and PDFs with a team. And then if you're working on Google Docs, you can share the doc too. So it's just remarkable. This isn't a Zotero class. I'm not really going to go into it other than that. And other to say that version 9, which is the latest iteration of Zotero, let's see if I can grab it here. There we go. Two things about the new version of Zotero. It has much more powerful annotation options for PDFs within Zotero. So as you add highlights and notes, Zotero creates a little table of contents over here on the left, so you can zip to whatever part you have highlighted or wherever you have a note. And then lastly, this is kind of cute. There are these headphones, and you can actually have Zotero read the article to you if you want, if you like to get your articles that way. So that's Zotero.
And just make one comment about Zotero. It is free, and I've actually switched over since Chris had mentioned it a few years ago, and it's so much more cost effective than EndNote, which is what I've been using for like 20 years. Plus, there is a paid version that gives you as a team unlimited cloud access to all of your archives. So if you're a lab or a research group, in some ways, you can, I think it's like $100, and I think we subscribe to it.
Here, yeah.
So Zotero is powerful in many ways, including collaborating.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thanks for mentioning that. So next up, before we get into consensus, the current situation at Stanford with AI is utterly unbelievable. It's crazy how many different AI services and platforms University IT, UIT is getting. It's dizzying, and it's very, very challenging to keep up with it all. And I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can do that if you're interested in AI. There's a link in your handout to the approved AI services at Stanford. This is a UIT matrix. And you can use these filters just to filter to, I only want to look at Anthropic, I only want to look at Google. And they're going to tell you what's been approved and what level of data you can use within those platforms. High risk, low risk, medium risk, all of that is laid out very nicely in this matrix. So that's one way of keeping up. The other way is UIT has a newsletter that you can sign up with. It's available. I don't know that I gave you the link, but if you just go to the main UIT site, you can subscribe. And this is one of the few ways you can keep up with all of the different things that they're purchasing. And the other thing that you can do if you're brave is you can sign up with the University IT Community of Practice AI Slack channel. And this is intense. So there's a lot of useful information in it, but there's also some really arcane stuff that is like, what the heck are they talking about? Hi, I want to build an MCP connector to our team's Snowflake instance. Like, I have no idea what that means. But they do announce different products as they roll out. And this is, if you're willing to sift through that arcana, you'll come across them and you can take advantage of them. And then the final thing I'll say is I do want everybody here to know that you have the ChatGPT and Claude for Education subscriptions, enterprise level access to those platforms now. And this is huge. These are very, very powerful. And if you have an account with Claude, a commercial account with Claude or ChatGPT, you might want to consider canceling that since you have these really, really capable enterprise level platforms. And they do the things that you would expect them to do. This is ChatGPT, and I use it for a lot of things, but I also use it for image creation because it's awesome at that. So as I was setting up here, I said, you know what, let's generate some flyers real quick. And ChatGPT generated a flyer for an upcoming talk by Evan Dellin on EOS. And I thought, wow, this looks pretty good. The only problem is this is not Dr. Dellin. So this is Dr. Dellin. But that's just an example of AI doing pretty amazing things, but not being perfect. So I just added a picture of Dr. Dellin, said replace it, and it did. So it's just a sort of flashy example of what some of these platforms can do. So
Can I make one
Yeah,
comment here?
sure.
And, you know, I just want to make a shout out to Michael Rosen, who's kind of like sending us on occasion these really helpful tips about what's new. So thank you, Michael. I think you're on. I actually learned about from him about Cloud for Education, went on, and I had $100 per month account. But now I've got the $200 per month account with the Stanford discount, which is like $50, around $50 a month. It gives you so much more functionality, but the freeware that you get if you sign up still gives you quite a bit of functionality with CoWork and Cloud Code. And so it's really worthwhile just subscribing to them. It takes like a day or two to kick in. And similarly, I think Gemini is now available to interface with your emails. So the terrain is ever changing. So
It's
these
just-
websites are really helpful to know about.
Yeah, the trend is constantly changing, practically day by day. The final thing I wanted to say about these different platforms for education is there is an education platform for affiliates. I don't know if there are any affiliates on the call, but for these, you typically have to pay a monthly fee of like $15 to $18, something like that. So, okay. Now I think we're ready to dive into consensus. So here's consensus. And I think consensus is a really remarkable tool. And I showcase a lot of AI platforms to a lot of clinicians, but this one seems to get traction. When I gave a talk as part of the APA's AI weekend artificial intelligence hands-on series, and I showcased consensus. Well, let me just back up a bit. What is consensus? So consensus is an AI platform that draws from 220 million abstracts and articles from something called Semantic Scholar. So it's not all articles, it's abstracts and full text articles if they're available. There's also agreements that Consensus has with some publishers to reveal articles that might be behind paywalls. It's not exactly clear, but it works against that huge corpus. And it's multidisciplinary. It's not limited just to clinical medicine. You can add a clinical medicine filter, but typically you don't want to do that. And what it's really, really good at is revealing differences of opinion or disagreement about a particular concept. So is azithromycin better than amoxicillin for treating otitis media in kids? Some say yes, some say no. Consensus can reveal those disagreements and give you oftentimes a little graphic called a consensus meter as to 80% think yes, azithromycin is better, 10% think amoxicillin and 10%, not sure. So it's really, really effective with that. And I think it does it better than most other AI platforms, maybe any other AI platform. So let me just refer back to the APA meeting. One of the APA GI docs came to me after the session and he said, I tried this out and I put in my research topic. And not only did it reveal the differences of opinion about this particular therapeutic approach, it suppressed the bad actors. So those publishing in low impact journals or whose methodology is weak or, whatever the reason, they evaporated. So it was really, really good at that. Now I'm going to quickly go through the main dashboard just so you have kind of a notion of how it works. New thread is just basically new question. Home, pretty obvious what that is. My library is where you can upload articles to Consensus, and I'm going to give you a caveat about that. And you can also link it to your collections in Zotero. So the caveat is yes, you can link it to these collections you have here, like I do in Zotero, like pediatric EOS. But consensus does not have a formal agreement with Stanford. It says it does, but it really doesn't. UIT doesn't really know anything about it, or they don't know, they're not aware of any agreement. Which means that this is open, right? If you upload things to it, like proprietary journal articles that live behind a paywall, that could potentially be used as training data. And that's a violation of copyright, apparently. So you really want to be careful about anything you upload being proprietary, because that is potentially a violation. It's just unlikely, right, that some publisher is going to track you down for doing that, but it's best practices for to not do that. So I wanted to mention that. So anyway, my library
Yes,
is,
can I ask you a
Yeah,
question?
sure.
Just like as we are starting, because I haven't opened this before, so now it's asking me like sign up or sign in. Did you use your like Stanford account? You said it's
Stanford
not
account.
linked to Stanford, but should I still use a Stanford email?
yeah, you want to use your
Okay.
Stanford email account.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you for asking that.
Okay, can you take us to, I guess you were already on consensus, but is there any way for you to walk us through how to access consensus, or is it pretty self-explanatory?
Let's see, I guess I just Googled it. That's consensus.app. Oops, sorry. .app. Yeah, I'd have to log out, which I can do.
I said I did consensus.app and then I got that same.
Okay,
And then it asked me to sign in or sign up, so I'm signing up.
you
Just like
signed up with
if
your
helpful.
Stanford EDU.
I'm doing Stanford email, yes.
Okay, great. Did it work? I hope.
It's working, yes, I'm still
Oh,
in the
still
process.
thinking.
It's asking faculty or clinician, we should do either, or do you have recommendation, or does?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Can we let everyone just do that for a minute, or is that okay? To get on the consensus. So, let's do that. Let's, for those who have a laptop, and we can also share, so, let's go on consensus and get set up, because what Chris will be doing is he'll take us through an example. And then, I think he's gonna ask us to do our own example or something like that.
Mhm.
So, this will be hands-on for those who can do it. And
do you want me to pause?
just for a minute.
Sure.
That's okay.
Absolutely. Any luck? Done. Great.
Um,
Okay,
Awesome.
you're in. Is anyone having any, around their laptop? Otherwise, I guess it's pretty straightforward, and we'll keep moving.
Okay,
Okay, so
sounds
now
good.
most of us are on, at least hopefully.
Yeah. So one other thing about my library, whatever you have in it, you can run a search against it. So basically, it's like Gemini Notebook. You're working against a source or sources that you've uploaded and you've identified. So it's not going to pull in anything else. It's only going to be working off the stuff that you've uploaded. And if you haven't used Gemini Notebook, it does the same thing. Okay, let's go back home. Okay, history is just the history of your searches. Paper search is kind of like a PubMed search, except again, it's against this multidisciplinary corpus of abstracts and papers. Citation graph is a way to visualize connections between papers. So if I take this paper here, optimizing bariatric surgery, et cetera, I click on C, and then I click here on explore graph. It's going to show me relationships between these different papers, but please don't ask me any more about it because I haven't really explored it and I'm not sure I exactly understand it, but it's there if you want to play around with it. Okay, so next up is the different types of questions that you can ask of consensus. There's a number of them, and the most popular things like, I want to do a default search on a particular topic, and the default search in consensus is called the pro search. So my search is on pediatric EOS. What's the best approach to managing peds EOS, elimination diets or medication? And what you'll see here on the results dashboard is the steps that it took to find the papers that it's going to analyze. In this case, it used little agentic AI agents to go out and do these different lit searches that I didn't ask it to do, but it took it upon itself. And then it came back with results. It assessed those results for relevance, and then it analyzed them and came back with a response. And let me shut down references for a second. So this is the response. And everything that it's saying is, in theory, backed up by a citation. So if you hover over the citations that it's citing, it's going to show you where in the abstract or where in the paper it came to the conclusion that this response was justified. So it's backing up the responses with evidence, which is what you want, and you always need to check it. And it doesn't matter if you're using open evidence or consensus or whatever, you of course always have to check the sources because there's no human behind this. There's nobody responsible for this response other than you. So you really need to check the evidence. But it does a pretty good job of giving a little comparison table here and elimination diets and yada, yada, yada. And then over on the right, you have the option to take a closer look at the citations and papers that it's citing. Because a lot of times, not only is it going to give you the supporting quotes that it's pulling from, but it's also going to tell you, hey, this is a very rigorous journal. This is a paper that's been cited a lot. This is a systematic review. So it's top of the evidence pyramid. So all of that stuff is over there on the right. And then if you use the PDF link here, it'll invoke LibKey to go out and get the article. So this is what LibKey looks like when you activate it. So there's the paper. So it makes that pretty painless. Now, I think I'm lost. There we go. Okay. So that's just a simple example of the pro search. Now you also, I think it's 15 times a month, you can use the deep search. And that's something that's really pretty intense. So this is a deep search on essentially just managing EOS in kids. And it did 30 separate lit reviews, which is just, I don't know, astonishing. And it came back with the results, the same process of assessing and analyzing and then coming up with a response. And this all happens, lickety split. It happens really, really fast. You can play around the citation graph if you want to explore that. And basically, deep search creates a review, basically a topic review. And it gives you an introduction, gives you methods, it gives you results. It's very, very detailed. But of course, you'd always have to check its response, check the evidence to make sure that these responses are justified. A couple of other types of search. If you want to do an overview of something you're not familiar with, like what are the challenges these days in the discipline of pediatric gastroenterology? You can use consensus to reveal those. So there are multifaceted challenges, drug development and dosing, adherence and formulation barriers. Now, you guys obviously know way more about this than I do, so you can see if this is accurate. Are these really the key areas of research in peds GI? I don't know, but they seem pretty reasonable. Next up is yes/no questions. Consensus is really good at that. So in this case, does gastroesophageal reflux in infants under 12 months typically require pharmacological management, yes or no? And it comes up with an answer and it says no. And it gives you this little graphic, this consensus meter. It gives you a quick view of it. Looks like it's 100% no. So a lot of times it's much more nuanced than that. But a warning, it's not, consensus will not hallucinate an article that doesn't exist because it's pulling from that corpus, right? But it can make mistakes in terms of its analysis and its assessment. So you just have to be careful about that and aware of that. So, maybe this is true, it seems to be, but you would always want to check the sources. I also use it occasionally to build a comparison table, just a quick and dirty comparison table. So do one for therapeutic interventions for treating Crohn's in kids, and it comes up with this, which again, to a non-specialist seems pretty reasonable. So again, it's just another type of question you can ask. And there's two others that I wanted to showcase. One is you want to see how the knowledge of a particular, say, condition has changed since its first identification to current practice. And so in other words, you want to see a timeline. So you can tell consensus to build a timeline about the diagnosis of acute pancreatitis. And it'll actually give you diagnostic advances in these different clusters that you could check. You can even say, you can phrase it differently. Give me the intellectual lineage of the evolution of knowledge about IBD. And it will do that. And it will show you early recognition, back to the ancient Greeks to the present. And it will give you citations and paradigm shifts. It's really good about identifying paradigm shifts in terms of treatment or diagnosis. So it's really good at that. And then I think that would be those are the most popular kinds of questions that consensus gets. So they actually did a presentation on, we've done an analysis of the questions that people ask. We've done interviews with people who use consensus, and those are the questions that people like to use consensus for. So I know this is an hour-long talk, but that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Can we do
Can we
questions?
open up, can we open up to?
Yeah.
People have quite a lot.
Can we compare two different modalities of therapy, like surgery versus medication for a certain disease? Would it give that
Oh, yeah,
comparison for us?
absolutely. I think that would be, I'd
Yeah.
love to do that.
And then my follow-up question, can you upload like a form or a worksheet where you wanted to follow that standard and like giving you the information back?
So you wanted
Just
to
like
copy,
Notebook LM does for you? Or
like what?
Like Notebook LM does for you? Like, can you upload a worksheet and say, this is my question, can you give me that information answering these specific questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I'm mentally trying to think of other platforms where you might be able to do that.
I can do that at Notebook LM.
Yeah,
Can do it for you.
Gemini
Yeah,
Notebook.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I just did a basic, like a search, like kind of what you had said about seminal articles, and it pulls a lot of articles from like Russia, Japan, like other countries too. Is there a way to, is it similar to other?
I am so glad you asked that question. Thank you so much. Because the one thing I forgot to mention is filters over here on the right. So there are all sorts of filters that you can apply. So you can say, I want to publish between X and Y. You want to use this journal ranking algorithm that measures rigor of journals. You can exclude preprints. I'm looking for language.
It has countries at the bottom.
Is it down there? And I'm just,
Yeah.
let me just. Does it study countries?
Right there,
Uh,
236 countries.
That's so strange. Minimum. I don't see it. I'm reluctant to say you can't filter by language.
But I guess you could do countries, right? That would kind of
Yeah.
get you close.
Exactly, yeah. I'm gonna do a little bit of background on that because that's a filter that they should have.
Great questions. Let's take a question online. Dr. Ann Ming asks, or first states, this is great. Can you compare open evidence capabilities to consensus?
Sure, happy to.
And that was a question that came up last evening from two IBD folks in the background.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely happy to do that. So, let me just pull up open evidence. So consensus, like I said, draws from Semantic Scholar, right? There's 220 million articles and abstracts. Open evidence does not. It's pulling from a much more restricted corpus, primarily, though not exclusively, PubMed. So it's pulling from PubMed, it's pulling from some big journal publishers. So the size and the breadth is much smaller, but that's okay because people are using this for purely clinical questions. And it doesn't do some of the fancy schmancy things that consensus does. Like, although I haven't tried it lately to verify that it doesn't do those things. But it's really about point of care. That's its main thing. I have a clinical question. I have, an adult male, 52 years old, hemodynamically stable, atrial flutter. What's the best management practice for that? That's the kind of thing that open evidence lives for. I don't think you would ever use consensus as a point of care tool. So I'm just curious how many people are using open evidence. That's really interesting. So a year ago in February, I had 30 first-year pediatric residents, and I said, how many of you are using OE? 3 people raised their hand. This year, February, every single resident is using it. So it's taking the clinical world by storm, and it's decreasing the use of UpToDate, which, just a little aside, UpToDate has had like libraries over the barrel for the past 2 decades. They can charge anything they want because they know we won't cancel it. But now, with open evidence, we have a little more leverage. So it'll be interesting to see how that resolves. Sorry.
That's
Andrew.
great. No, that's great. Let me take questions here. One, just as we're sort of framing some of these questions, I guess, there's power here. I might just make the comment that there's additional power if you take consensus and connect it to, for example, Claude. And so I have Claude, I have a connector, and that was, if you scroll to.
I can pull that up right now.
Yeah, one of the, so you can just do it on here. So if you have a Claude account, and again, if you get the free Claude account, that will give you the enterprise entry access. You can get the connector, and the connector works with Claude Cowork or with Claude Code. And I don't know, it just said with the raise of hands here, how many are familiar with Cowork or Code? So not as many. I can tell you offline for another meeting, it's very easy to use. Cowork is like Claude Code for non-developers, or I would say dummies, like me. And essentially all you do is you take a folder. So let's say you want to write a systematic review, I think Perseus and Eduardo, a systematic review on some IVD stuff, ultrasound. And you create a folder, and then everything lives in that folder, including the instructions for performing the action, and it becomes part of memory. And then you can invoke all these additional domain-specific tools, such as consensus, to further enhance that activity.
Yeah, and this is the connector for Claude to PubMed or consensus. You can do both, and then it's just a matter of use consensus to analyze best treatment for EOS. And then Elliot, what's that? EOE. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's good.
God, I wonder what it'll do with EOS. Whatever that is.
No.
I'm trying to figure it out. So that's great. And just another question is, often we're interested in writing a systematic review. We're interested in writing a systematic review or meta-analysis, or the sort of step up is to take raw data and to be able to synthesize it from data sets, and then synthesize, a review of those data. At least for the systematic review meta-analyses, can you use consensus? Have you done that before?
In terms of supplementing the literature searches?
Yeah, let's say
Or analyzing
you want to publish a systematic review on a topic. Have you had any experience in using consensus for publishing?
So only to the extent that when we work with somebody on a scoping review or systematic review, we'll typically identify if it's a purely clinical question, 5 databases to search. But now we're augmenting those searches. We're supplementing them with searches of selected AI platforms like Consensus. But the reporting of that is different than it would be for like a PubMed search. So in a PubMed search for systematic review, you would actually report and supplement the actual search strategy that you would use and the databases that you would search. So it's replicatable, right? You can copy that search, put it into PubMed and get the same results. With AI, with Google Scholar, typically for the method section, what we'll say is we searched, consensus version 2 on this date. The prompts that we used were this, and this. And then, we use these inclusion exclusion criteria to select from the results. So that's how I think I would use it. I wouldn't use it to, only because I hadn't really thought about it in this context, to actually analyze the article or extract data. There's other tools that claim to do that, like Elicit. So if you go to Elicit and upload a paper or an abstract and you tell it, extract these data elements from the paper or the abstract, it'll create columns and pull those data elements out. But there's real controversy about that because you're uploading a lot of times proprietary articles, right, into a platform that Stanford doesn't have an agreement with. The great thing about using Stanford's Chat GPT for Education or Claude is that the content is constrained. It's behind a wall. It's not going to be used to train the AI's data. So you can justifiably, I think, upload proprietary articles within the Stanford instances of these AI tools, but we don't have an agreement with Elicit. So that's kind of an issue. But data extraction is a huge headache. I mean, it can take upwards of 2 hours to do data extraction of a single paper. So it's a matter of time, I think, before we get a tool that will do that. Probably it's going to be something that Covidence does. If you're familiar with Covidence, it's a screening tool, a web-based screening tool. I think at some point they're going to be building out some way of doing data extraction. They're already building in screening tools, which is another part of scoping and systematic review. So because that was a long answer to your question, but
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
yeah, I'm gonna
For Notebook LM,
uh-huh.
or I guess now it's just called Notebook, right?
Gemini Notebook.
Yeah. Can we upload our articles that we?
Yeah,
Like that's closed, right? So
it's closed. You're using the Stanford Gemini instance. Yeah, no, exactly. So this is what that looks like. So this is, let me go to my, so this is my notebook on the health effects of chocolate. Fun, right? So these are all of the sources that I upload. The PDFs, the PowerPoint slides, they're links to documents I have on Drive. And this is the corpus that Gemini Notebook is going to be working from. I can add other things. I can, pull in other stuff and then select it or not. And then I can chat with it. So there's 3 parts to it. The sources over on the left, chat down the middle, and then the assets you can build over on the right. So I wanted to build an infographic based on those sources using an anime style. This is way over the top. Really pretty cheesy, but it definitely has pop. And then if you want to do something more sober, you choose a different style and you get something much more mellow. And some nice chocolate colors.
But, can I,
yeah.
say, make this more practical? So something that we're trying to figure out, we haven't figured it out yet. It's sort of an opportunity and a challenge, which is that about a few years ago, we tried to put everything onto an online platform, which was MedWiki, a Microsoft tool, which was supposed to sort of solve all the problems, have all the protocols that we had, but it wasn't accessible to a large chunk of our enterprise, including the hospital, related employees, nurses, et cetera. And so, for good or bad, MedWiki went away and sunsetted earlier this year. And I actually learned the hard way last night as I was trying to look for a protocol. And what we're trying to do is, and again, talking about domain-specific tools like Gemini Notebook. We couldn't use Gemini Notebook, but there is a hospital, AI tool, and I'm not sure which of the few, AI companies it belongs to, called Digi, I think IS or something. And so there is a method of taking all of our domain-specific protocols, putting it onto a AI platform like DigiIS, and then having a completely searchable method, as well as a summary method of being able to sift through those protocols. That's what we're working on now.
And I think, I can't remember Aiden's last name, but Aiden's one of the pediatric informatics fellows, did something with something similar to that with LPCH protocols. And I don't know if you know Aiden or be interested in, picking his brain about that, since he's already done it. And I think there's actually a link to it now within Epic. So might be worth following up on. But that's pretty much what I have. See if there's anything else that might be of interest.
Any questions from the audience?
I guess just one more sort of selfish question about using Notebook and Zotero. Is there an easy way to like get articles from Zotero to Notebook? I feel like I have to manually
Yeah,
drag
that's
all the
it.
PDFs.
Right. Yeah, Zotero's really odd about PDFs and where it keeps them. It's not always clear where they
Yeah.
live or how you can get at them. I don't have an answer to that, but let me, that's a really interesting question. Let me do a little digging.
So your question is where do PDFs live?
So like within, like if you import an article into Zotero, it has its own way of organizing all the files. And then if I want to drag 10 of those PDFs into Notebook, to like run a little
Yeah.
analysis on, I have to manually,
Search each of them.
each
Yeah.
PDF, I have to like, yeah.
Like these guys, like if you wanted all of these PDFs, just
Yeah.
grab them collectively and move them into, yeah, I can do a dig on that. I'm interested
Yeah,
as well.
that doesn't exist. I feel like
Yeah.
we built that.
I haven't done this yet, but thinking about it, I think you could probably move your Zotero notebook so it's not in any kind of HPI protected file on your computer, and then you could have Claude Cowork give Claude Cowork access to your entire Zotero library.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, actually, that's a brilliant idea. Because Zotero lives, I think, even if you have the online account, Zotero, every online account automatically downloads the corpus into your desktop.
Right.
I think. That's a great idea.
Great. Well, that's all I had for you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We're just taking chats. Did anyone have any comments on the chat? Michael, that was a great comment. And would you like to make another comment, or anyone else would like to make a comment or ask a question?
This is
Yes, ma'am.
Pampa. I just wanted to thank you so much, Christopher. But I was thinking it'll be a great idea for you to come back and maybe check with us how we are doing, because you've given us a lot of information. Some of us are pros at using those, some of us are not. So would it be good to have like a live workshop follow-up in like 3 months to see how much of us have caught on to your valuable tips?
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, happy to come back.
Okay, well, great. Good segue.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you're welcome.
and let's do one more round of this.